Hello to everyone who is just now tuning in. I'm Stephen Crane, writer, editor, community manager for The Armed Gamer. This right here is my good friend Reed Bryan Smith.
Hey.
We're gonna kind of do a structured, easy debate about the endings of Mass Effect 3 because they are a very, very polarizing topic among fans, and it's something that I think we haven't really had a good, strong debate online anywhere about this. We've had kind of talking heads, we've had a lot of articles, we've had, a
lot of negativity, but no side reflecting the positives.
Yeah, we haven't really managed
no back and forth.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm here to provide, and again, keep going on with the comments, talk to us throughout the whole thing. I'll be updating as we go along and kind of taking suggestions from the comments and responding. So, why don't we get things started? Reed, why don't you take the first line? You are very strongly opposed to the endings of Mass Effect 3, so why don't you...
You want to get started on... Okay.
Yeah, well, why don't you get us started and I'll kind of respond to that.
I do have my crib sheet, so let me get started here. Let's see. Alright. The number one problem I had with the Mass Effect 3 endings is... No, I gotta get started, I gotta back up, because you have to understand that it doesn't matter if you did or didn't like them. That's a matter of opinion, and that's gonna change between everyone. Everyone's gonna say, oh, I didn't like it, because such and such ending. Can we give spoilers? Because I believe everyone's watching you play.
Yeah, spoiler alert, guys, it's gonna happen. We need to discuss what happened, so if you didn't see the endings yet and you don't want spoilers, don't watch this.
That should be on the top of it. But as I was saying, it's not a matter of your opinion. It's really about BioWare and EA's basically development of the endings, which I felt was completely inadequate for the game that they developed. So my biggest point was that Mass Effect was basically built, I believe, around a game of freedom in your Shepard. And they really built that so that everyone had their own Shepard, had his own choices, and that basically developed into your own universe, depending who you wanted to support or who you wanted to basically deny services. Like in the end, you're basically forced to choose between the Quarians and the Geth. Maybe you choose the Geth, maybe I choose Quarians. But in Mass Effect 3's ending, you don't see that really come through. There are no choices that really define the ending. I believe that the only things that factored into what ending you got were if you saved or destroyed the Collector base at the end of Mass Effect 2, which basically had no bearing on your Paragon or Renegade choices throughout it. You could do either one at the end. And the size of your military strength, which, again, no real effect. So what I was looking for is more something that really, defined the choices that you have made. I wanted to see more of that, because that's really what built the series. So, just more cause and effect relationships, rather than, oh, I got a big army and I saved the Collector base and now I get the good ending.
See, and, well, yeah, on one hand, Mass Effect was built very heavily around the theme of freedom and of my Shepard, but I think even stronger, it was kind of built on the idea of cosmicism, where everything is bigger than us. Everything is bigger than humans, it's bigger than Shepard, and it turns out bigger than all the races, and at the end, you kind of get an ending that is the epitome of the cosmicism, where everything there ends up bigger than the choices you made, and I think that all plays very strongly to that theme. But also, at the same time, it kind of continues on the themes where, if you had the From Ashes DLC, you kind of heard Javrik the Prothean talking quite consistently about how much he hates synthetic life, and given the choice, he'll always destroy synthetic life. And it was that common theme throughout Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 that really got its resolution there. So it wasn't that they abandoned anything they did. It was that they continued on the theme to its strong sci-fi ending-based route instead of the blockbuster AAA ending, where you saw the clean resolution of everything else we've previously encountered in the games.
Right. You bring up a point, though, about being bigger than Shepard, but the problem is that that's how the game really was. I believe they described it as Shepard's story was Mass Effects 1, 2, and 3. And throughout Mass Effect 1 and 2, you see it's all Shepard's story. Decisions revolve around him. He's the only one that can stop the Collectors. It's basically all him. In fact, he's the one who has to recruit this great army to basically fight the Reapers at the end. So, and then, it's true, it was all Shepard-centric, and at the very end, they're like, shift. Let's go see what's happening else. Let's see what happens to the universe. Really, that's not what I think we were expecting. We wanted Shepard's story. We didn't care what happened to the rest of the universe. Much like I go back to the greatest trilogy in Star Wars. You know, of course, the universe was saved when the Death Star was blown up the second time, but you didn't really see it on that level. You saw Luke's resolution and how the Ewoks were dancing around. That's all you saw was their own triumph in that.
Right, but that again plays into Star Wars isn't hard sci-fi. In the traditional sense, it isn't Asimov sci-fi. It's it's kind of lighter watching, later reading, and I think that BioWare ended up taking the more artistic approach to this instead of the more theatrical, which, you know, a lot of people weren't expecting, and it's something that right now there's a lot of backlash against, but I think a few years down the line we're going to kind of stop and think, rethink the ending a little bit. Right now we're very, very shocked, I think, by what we got as opposed to what we were expecting.
I have to back up a little bit more, too, and I have to say, I'm going to admit that when it ended, when I finished it, in the first 48 hours after it had been released, I played through and finished up 21 hours of gameplay, and I think I got the worst ending possible because when I had to go do the side missions, I would like click and have the Reapers just come at me, and it was too much of a little wuss to basically kind of like keep going. I ran away as fast as I could. But, so, I liked the ending for the 5 minutes that it happened, because I felt like I had accomplished something. It was great. I did win. I basically beat the Reaper threat. But then I started thinking back to all these things, and I'm like, wait a minute, what about this? What about that? What happened? Like, I want more.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, there was so much left unanswered. I want more. And I feel like they've done better. BioWare has done better endings in their games.
Oh yeah, no, that's very true. They have done very different endings, especially for the Baldur's Gate series. I mean, I can't really compare Dragon Age yet, just because we haven't seen Dragon Age 3.
I can.
Well, it's tough though, because
But Mass Effect 3's story almost reflects Dragon Age Origins. You are the Warden, Shepard, whatever you want to call it, and you have to recruit a great army to fight a great evil.
Well, that's...
So there's a similarity in there. What BioWare did, the writers did, was basically the epilogue blocks. Just text on a background. That was all I needed. That was great. It basically let you know what happened after you had finished the game. And it didn't ruin it. It didn't basically close off things for future stories. They still had plenty of DLC, the Witch Hunt that you could go and do, and then they still had plenty of openings for Dragon Age 2. So they're experienced with this kind of thing, and they don't leave a lot of people hanging. So I feel like they rushed. And I have another great piece of evidence. I don't know if you've seen it, but Tally's face. Have you seen that? If anyone's seen that, you never see Tally's face in the game, which I think everyone was hoping to see.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta think. I tried to romance her and do all that, and I wanted to see her face. All they did was another you don't see anything. Then, apparently, I didn't actually go back and check, but apparently they have a still shot available in, like, his email.
No, it's not in his email. What it is you end up with a picture of her on kind of your bedside table in the captain's quarters. And what the picture is, it's a stock image from the internet that they photoshopped.
Modified, yeah.
Oh, yeah, they pretty hardcore photoshopped, so she only has, the 3 fingers kind of going like this with the sunset in the background. And
instead of the 5 fingers the model had.
Yeah, and they kind of changed the color of her face a little bit, put it on some lines, made it look a little bit more alien. But it was still quite obviously.
Not great work. I mean,
Yeah, like
you have to call them out on that and say, guys, we know what you did. You kind of rushed this. It wasn't. You could have thought this out better. I mean, you knew it was going to be a big thing, so I don't know what was going on there. It would be interesting to see why they didn't basically just build her in the game. Why it's I don't know. I mean, it really can you be disappointed? They're not going to make her, an ugly person. I'm sorry. Yeah. It's just not going to happen in video game lore. They're going to make her have some good features. But they still showed her face in the still photo, so just translate that into...
Well, I mean, the problem with that was, how are they going to do that and make it look good? Because they would have to completely go into straight up the CGI pre-rendered cutscene as opposed to anything going on in-game. Because you then have to figure how do you make the mask look good if it's in the actual game graphics, when you're kind of pulling it off and you have the face underneath. But I do agree, they kind of were making a big deal, like, oh, hey, we're finally going to see Talia's face. And then they give us that, and it was completely underwhelming. And apparently... Okay, Tiger Tank says, I guess you're too busy building Jessica Chobot, who... What role did she play again in the game? I think she was the reporter.
Was that Jessica? I do not remember.
You know who Jessica Chobot is, right?
No.
Chobot? She's someone who constantly appears on G4 TV.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, she was a reporter. What did you think of the reporter in the game, by the way?
I punched the hell out of her.
Not that reporter. The one who you kind of see at the beginning is like, hey, I want to join you and report on the war.
Oh, the Snooki type character.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. I brought her on board. I basically, fooled around with her as my shepherd because that's the way I play. I like to dry hump the universe. But I thought... I knew from the minute the game was getting going that it was going to be one of those, we have to win hearts and minds. Much the way like Vietnam War would be done, get the cameras out there, show the boys fighting. I thought, you know what, I got to bring her on. That would be a great boost and probably help me build an army.
Yeah, I never quite figured out though, like what necessarily she did for mechanics wise in the game.
I think she just gave you, it's just basically a morale boost.
Okay.
I think it gave you some EMS points.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I don't think I am.
Yeah, but going back to the ending though, a lot of people have been kind of complaining about the lack of actual variety in endings.
Red, green, blue.
Well, it's a little bit more than that. You do get
tweaks.
You do get different animations.
Yeah.
You see either the Reapers getting destroyed, the Reapers going away, or just something like even enveloping the Reapers.
Or it's kind of getting blown up, or buildings still intact.
Yeah, and then you see Joker just going on the mass relay, doing crazy flailing with his arms, like, holy shit, must use whatever interface and get away, as if that was going to make him go any faster.
It almost did.
Then
I guess it did in the end.
And nobody crashes on Jungle Planet, and...
Bob, as I like to refer to it. If you've seen the movie, oh my god, now I'm going to blank on it. Oh man, basically there's a movie and they get a new Earth and they refer to it as Bob. Someone else, was that Titan AE?
Titan AE.
The animated feature, Titan AE. They find a new Earth and have it. It's like, what are you going to call it? I'm going to call it Bob.
God, I forgot about that.
That's exactly what I thought the ending was. They crash land, and it looked like another Earth, another jungle planet. I'm like, that's Bob.
Yeah.
They landed on Bob. Which, again, another ripoff. Which, another point I have, may I?
Go.
This was just the Matrix, wasn't it?
This
was... No, I'm not even asking. This was the Matrix. This was the Matrix endings. Part of 2 and part of 3.
A little bit, yeah. I mean,
A little bit.
Well, Shepard's death was inevitable. He was
Yes.
throughout the entire series a very strong Jesus Christ character.
Absolutely.
You saw biblical references throughout the entire series.
His name is
His
a
name-
biblical reference, so
Exactly. So, it's obviously kind of to be expected.
he had to die at least twice, didn't he?
Yeah, and his final death was going to have to be a sacrifice sort of thing. He had to sacrifice himself for the, for the
Yet he
greater
could
galaxy.
live as
He's-
well. Which,
there is that one ending where apparently after everything, I guess it's the Destroy Reapers one, where after everything you see the N7 dog tags and his body, and
kinda
does he
gasps.
breathe? He gasps?
yeah, I think that's.
Okay.
I believe it's just a gasp and then black screen.
Yeah, so I almost kind of wonder, like, is that the actual path we're supposed to take then? Much in the same sense that the ending of Mass Effect 2, where Shepard dies, is obviously not the canon ending.
Yes, which is a huge problem I want to get to later. But I believe, I think that's what they want us to get, just because that is you have to do the most completion of the game to get it. So you always want to reward gamers who basically do more and go the extra mile.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's probably going to be the canonical ending. I hope it's not, because like you said, I think as a Jesus character, he's got to die. It's kind of inevitable that he's going to have to give his life to save the universe, like he did in 2, maybe 2 twice. He could die like 4 times in your universe.
Something like that.
He could
Like,
die a lot.
He has a poor habit of dying and coming back if you really suck at
He's the
things.
best Jesus ever, though.
He kind of is. Like, Jesus died once and then came back.
Yeah.
Shepard is like, oh, I'm going to keep dying and coming back. Like, why the hell not?
Doesn't do his job well.
No. He's not... Yeah, you would think death is a one-way route.
Let me backtrack to the Matrix endings. I've got it here. So let's see, where is it? Because I wrote it off because I want to make sure. Okay, Neo with the architect scene is basically the AI who gives him a choice and says, "This is how you can go about doing this. We can maintain a measure of control, and you can rebuild and basically start again. But we're just going to do this cycle all over again, which would be kind of like your control ending." I know he has control over the Reapers, but it wasn't clear if he was basically fully in control or if the cycle was just going to begin again.
Well, what it was he was fully in control of the Reapers.
Mm-hmm.
However, the AI was convinced that eventually Shepard would choose the same choice they had made.
Right.
Because Shepard would look and see, whatever civilization is making synthetic life again, the synthetic life would start to rebel and attack all organic life.
Right.
So Shepard would swoop in order to save organic life from the synthetic, therefore starting that cycle
All
again.
over again. Exactly, which would be that ending. Then there's also the other choice of just go out and leave and try to save it on your own, but you're going to be destroyed.
I don't think that was the choice.
For Neo?
Oh, for Neo.
Neo.
Okay, for Neo, yes.
Which was kind of similar to just, okay, just blow everything up, you're dead, and,
Right, okay, yeah.
But then you go to the Matrix Revelations, the third one, and that's basically your synergy one, where basically Neo actually brokers a deal with the machine colony and sacrifices himself to basically end the war, much in the way that Shepard basically fuses his synthetic and organic place to finally mesh the two together. There was a lot in there that actually, the fact that, if you remember, that when he came into the architect scene, the architect basically told him, because you have been here, you have now changed, meaning that, Neo had finally become, part machine, part human, same way that basically when he was born, he had the part synthetic and part human. So, I mean, there's going to be obvious connections there because he was a Jesus character just as Neo was. So, but because of that, because they basically played out the same ending, and they had the same awful architect character, it just felt hackneyed and nothing new. It was recycling of what we've seen before.
That's true, but every ending is automatically going to be recycling of everything from everything else. If you saw there's a beautiful video series online called Everything is a Remix, and if you watch that, you realize that all art, all innovation is actually just modifying previous innovations from earlier, which is just modifying again previous innovations. Nothing exists in a vacuum, and that's how So if you look at any ending now, you can easily see, well, it's just like this ending.
Right.
So it is hard to fault it for that unless they actually pull the actual complete script from it, which I don't believe they pulled that word for word.
No.
Death Defying Duck wants to know, Talamancer it is, wants to know, do you guys think the series, or where do you think where do you guys think the series will go from here post Shepard?
That's a good question because I was basically going to ask you at the end of it, but really they're going to switch it to somebody else's story, I think, same way they kind of be like, I go back to Star Wars again, where 4 through 6 was Luke's story. They'll basically continue Mass Effect 4 through 6, let's say, will be someone else's story. I don't know if they're going to... I would hope they switch it to non-human based, maybe just give it a different perspective. But there's definitely a lot more still out there that we don't know that I think they could go ahead and give us the answer to, especially given all the backlash they received. So I wouldn't be surprised if they try to answer some of those questions in the later games to appease the masses.
Yeah, now, from what I've been reading, and from some of the things I've seen from the developers, it really sounds like they aren't going to necessarily go for a post-Shepard universe for any sequels.
Of course not.
They kind of actually, it sounds like, want to make a game entirely in the Mass Effect 3 series where someone else is fighting the war. You play someone like maybe a Krogan or a Turian, fighting on the front lines.
Okay.
So you see that. And, I guess throughout the series you're going to kind of hear, oh, Shepard just did this, off in the background, and how everything's going from there.
Okay.
Someone's suggesting maybe a Mass Effect MMO, which I'm not entirely sure on.
I think I've heard rumors, and that's all I've heard.
Yeah, it's rumors. I don't even think the developers themselves know that anything is confirmed.
They certainly have everything set up with the universe, so it's just a matter of basically designing the right game, so...
Now, what I find interesting, actually, is if you watch the Mass Effect marathon I did about a little bit more than 2 weeks ago.
That's excellent.
Thank you. Raised $4,000. Go team.
Good job, everyone.
But if you watch that, I was kind of talking with some of the developers, some of the people behind it, and I was asking them, where do we go from here? And one of them, I forget who I was talking to, but they kind of were a bit coy and were like, oh, well, I'm not entirely sure Shepard's story is done here. So that, in my mind, leaves it open to, okay, maybe ending DLC. Maybe we're going to see a new game or something else entirely, which would be interesting, to see new DLC to possibly give us a different ending, so you can kind of choose, or do you want this ending where you have these 3 choices, or do you want to continue on? But at the same time, as I tweeted Manveer Hare online, he's a senior designer. I think he designed the powers for Mass Effect 3 and was tweaking all those. I tweeted him and asked him, could DLC even fix the endings? And his, just on a technical point, and his response was, it kind of seemed to indicate that if it's changing existing content, so if it was to take the endings we have right now and change the script, change everything else, that would require a patch. Which,
right,
patches are pretty good. They're free. Obviously they aren't going to charge you for a patch.
Hopefully.
Exactly. However, I believe that if they were going to tack on to the end,
which could be a possibility.
If they're going to tack on to after the N7 dog tag ending, that would probably be DLC, since I don't think that's modifying the content. That's just adding on to it.
Right.
Which someone earlier had asked us, did we hear about the indoctrination theory? And
yes, we did.
What do you think of that?
I read through it, and it's a good theory, but I don't believe it. Just for my own playthrough, I don't think so. There'd be too much going on. It was very confusing. I don't see it. I can't believe they want to end it that way with like a weird twist. I think you guys are just looking for something to poke holes in, at least just to make sense of everything, when really it was just a bad ending. Sorry to disappoint, but they didn't think that far ahead. Maybe you should go right for BioWare.
Yeah. But see, I actually think it would be interesting if they did that, because that would kind of completely layer your concept of what happened in the game. It would introduce a new theme of the unreliable narrator, where the game itself is unreliable in conveying the information, because no matter what, you're viewing it third person through Shepard's eyes. And that would kind of change, alright, you saw his dreams, what was going on in there.
Right.
What did those mean, if they were indoctrination? And I almost kind of wonder if BioWare is just like taking notes on everyone saying all this, like, guys, we'll release a shitty
That's
ending.
really good. God.
We'll add that in. But what I actually thought the endings did really well was they kind of made us feel the despair and the hopelessness Shepard himself kind of felt, Like, I almost wonder, like, alright, we saw Shepard almost emotionally break down in front of Liara and, whoever else, at least in my playthrough, and kind of talk about how, God, just everything sucks, everything is against him, he's kind of working so hard against the world right now. And, when the whole galaxy is fighting him, like, how much that sucks. And I feel like that's thematically and just artistically interesting, to have the audience at the end feel that hopelessness, feel that, like, well, what did that just matter? How, that wasn't what I wanted, that wasn't what I was going for, and now at the end, there's just this massive outcry, which, I thought would have been interesting if we saw a little bit more rage from Shepard at the end, like, no, like, this isn't what I wanted to go for, before going through the three choices. To at least kind of question them, go through that same stages of grief, anger that we as an audience are kind of going through. And
how do I make a decision that affects the entire universe by myself? Would be a nice angle.
Yeah, and I personally think that would have been an interesting direction to take, but at the same time, I still think that, this anxiety we all feel, this anger, is what Shepard to a degree felt, so therefore the ending becomes a little bit more layered, and I think almost kind of deliberate and interesting in how that went down.
But I thought it seemed like you made peace. I mean, the anger kind of dissipated, especially at the end with Anderson just sitting there. He's kind of like, okay, I did everything I need to do. The Crucible should work. My job is done. And I thought, like, okay, fine, it's over. And then he eventually gets lifted up and you have the AI scene.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the anger, I don't know, I feel like dissipated by that point. I did like the build up toward the ends. Towards the end, I thought it was really great. You could feel the struggle, especially the slow motion after you're hit by the Reaper's beam. So you get every sense of what all the struggle he's going through, much like the Metal Gear Solid 4 ending, where you're slamming on the triangle button, crawling through the end, and your fingers are bleeding, and you feel just like old Snake. You just feel what the character's going through. There could have been more of that, but you were entirely right that there could have been more to Shepard in the end when he's talking to AI.
Which, I actually did find that interesting, how they came out and said they didn't want to have a final boss for an ending, because in their minds, and I think I'm quoting this exactly, they said it felt too video gamey to have that. Which I agree, actually. I
in this instance, okay, fine, I'll give him that.
I like that direction where it's narrative at the end. It's you're talking to the elusive man. You and Anderson are kind of going back and forth. You're, going through dialogue, and you don't have like, oh, Saren or some big final boss that's just epic, because I feel like that's illogical. That's not how things actually happen, and
You wouldn't be able to pull it off with this instance in the way of the game where, I mean, you kill one Reaper and there's 300 more. You don't really want to have, like, the mothership kind of ending. I understand that, yeah, a final boss wouldn't seem real. It wouldn't make good sense to the game.
yeah, Shiao, I did not hear about the original ending with the dark energy. Could you explain a little bit in the comments, or just link me to it and I'll kind of read it off on air? I didn't read too much about that.
I have the dark and no,
Yeah,
I don't know.
Xiao wants to know, you guys ever heard the original ending with the dark energy? Much better ending.
Oh, I take any other ending.
Yeah, Tiger Tank says Drew Kapershian's original draft for the MA3's ending was, which explained the motivations behind the Reapers. They were supposed to be a union of countless alien races, with the first generation Reapers having discovered in the distant past that dark energy, ... We'll get back to that.
Huh.
Which, let's talk a little bit about the motivations behind the Reapers. What did you think about that?
It made sense. I mean, it's basically, where'd they come from? I guess, because it got confusing because it's like synthetics that want to wipe out organic and synthetic life so that some organics can live so they can develop synthetics again. It's kind of like if they're supposed to be all about order, why not just kill everyone and have yourselves live? I guess their motivation was like they want to play God, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, it almost kind of boiled down to their motivation was in order to preserve organic life, which kind of seemed their prime directive. They have to prune it.
yeah,
Like,
right.
much like tending a garden, you got to pull out the weeds, you got to pull out the weaker plants to bring out the stronger ones, and
Right.
you got to kind of cycle the crops. And I think the motivation ended up making sense.
Don't doubt the motivation. It made complete sense.
Yeah.
That's fine. I believe everything the Reapers do. It's their way of solving their problem. It makes sense to them. It doesn't make sense to the rest of us.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
One complaint I've actually also seen is that people didn't like the fact that they felt Deus Ex Machina was literally pulled at the end. You have the god from the machine, you have the child AI, and complete super weapon, whatever happens. Which, I kind of disagree with. I don't think the Deus Ex Machina was suddenly pulled out at the end. You were quite literally building the Deus Ex Machina starting at Mars.
Yeah, you were basically...
If you didn't see that coming, even if it was a super weapon that just suddenly destroyed all Reapers, happy ending, that's Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah.
That's how that happens. And...
We found something. Yeah, it's... You can't be surprised about that.
Yeah, and then... I also don't think you can be surprised with the fact that the Crucible ended up not being a super weapon in the strictest sense. Because they made it quite clear throughout the entire Mass Effect 3 that you didn't really know what it was.
Right.
I know this was in From Ashes DLC. I don't know if any other character mentions this aside that, but Javrik makes it a point to say, well, we aren't the ones who developed the Crucible. That we got that from civilizations before us, and it kind of keeps going back,
Right.
where every
race that was about to get eliminated added a piece.
Yeah, every cycle added something new.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's an element I feel has been repeated as well. I can't think of where, but I feel like definitely something that's come up in other science fiction. I wish I knew. I should have done more research on that part. But yeah, I forget what I thought, because as I was going through, I thought that the Crucible, I didn't think it was going to be a super weapon, and I wish I could remember what was going through my mind when they were developing it. I thought it was going to have some different ending where it wasn't going to destroy the Reapers. It was going to result in some other ending that basically either I made some change to the universe.
See, my thinking was we were going to get to the end, and Shepard was going to start to launch the Crucible. Then it would kind of come to the realization that if you launch the Crucible, all life in the galaxy would be destroyed.
Right.
So he had that choice of either not launching the Crucible and having everyone duke it out, possibly lose to the Reapers anyway, or launching the Crucible, everything ends. And I thought that would kind of be that would kind of be the choice.
I also pretty much picked up on. I thought that basically Shepard was going to end up being the catalyst. Like they were like, "What's the catalyst? What's the catalyst?" It's going to have to be Shepard's going to have to jump in there and sacrifice.
I am glad that he was not the catalyst.
But he kind of was, because
in a sense
he was the catalyst to the catalyst. I don't know. He basically he had to impart action to get it to start, which kind of is a catalyst. In a weird definition of chemistry. But then he died, so actually he's not really I don't know.
Yeah, so Shiyao explained what he thought of the original ending. He said, if you remember the Tali recruitment mission in Mass Effect 2, where they were researching why the sun was acting weird, it was because of the dark energy. It was slowly consuming the galaxy. The Reapers wanted to make a human Reaper. They thought it would stop the dark energy from consuming the galaxy, because the Reapers believed that the human adapts best to any situation. So the choices you would have in the end were 1. Sacrifice the human race and make the human Reaper and stop the dark energy, or 2. Stop the Reapers and try to stop the dark energy from Man, this character limit sucks. So, they're saying there's a huge. So I don't know. What would you think of that ending? I think what we got was better than that.
Well, obviously, I disagree with it. Well, I don't fully understand that, so it's kind of hard for me to say.
Yeah. Well, essentially, it sounds like it would be a completely human-centric ending, where humans adapt best to any situation, therefore creating a human-based Reaper, like what we saw at the end of Mass Effect 2, where we saw the big skeleton thing. Creating a human-based Reaper would be able to adapt to the dark energy, solve the dark energy problem for some reason.
As a human-centric ending, that would be great for a gameplay where you could actually join the Elusive Man.
Yes,
which I gotta say was another big problem I had. I thought, because my playthrough on Mass Effect 2, I thought, the Elusive Man just brought me back to life. I should be his friend. So I renegated, and I was basically, I'm going to follow you. And then Mass Effect 3, no, he's our enemy. Which I thought was, come on. Let me join the Elusive Man. Then you could have that ending, and humans are winning the galaxy, and we kill off everyone else. And you become this evil dark overlord. I would have liked that.
Yeah.
Humanity first. Yeah.
That would have been an interesting approach. Excuse me. Tiger Tank mentions they found it weird that regardless of who you took on the last mission, they could be seen in the ending cinematic getting off the ship with Joker.
That is the truth. Yeah.
That does bother me, and I actually kind of wonder how much of that is actually just a bug, because I heard of someone who tallies and heroed herself when someone chose the Geth. Yeah. If you don't do the hard renegade or hard paragon, choices in that where you choose the Geth, the Quarian fleet goes to war, Geth upgrade, Quarians die, and Talia's kind of like, what the fuck? And like throws herself off a cliff. Someone had that happen and then saw Tali in that ending cinematic get off the ship. And I kind of wonder like how much of that is actually a bug.
Twist. Yeah. Like I said, they half-assed the ending. They didn't think that, oh, wait a minute. Hey, she's dead!
There were a lot of bugs throughout the entire game, I noticed. Especially on the Xbox 360. I'm noticing them less on the PC.
Yeah.
But on the 360, I noticed a lot of bugs. I had characters like not present in the.
I thought Liara was dead when I was running through there. I could see like on the ground she got hit, and then she's in the ending. So I saw all those bugs too.
Yeah, and apparently there was like in the original ending, your two squad mates who are running get hit by the beam. When you wake up, you can turn around and you see their bodies. You know, that was in their original script, I believe. But they were like, well, fuck, that's dark.
Well, I mean, that's exactly what you're up against, so that's exactly what you want. You can't have a happy ending to this.
Yeah.
I don't think they should have tried. They should have, you're going up against the greatest force in the universe. Something's gonna die. A lot of things are gonna die. Maybe they could, I mean, I would have been happy if they started killing off every single one of your squad mates one by one. Would have been a nice little way to end it.
Yeah,
then you're Shepard, and you just watch every single person you've been on a mission with throughout the entire series get shot, die somehow, and then you're just so frustrated. You go through everything. Then you see Anderson die, and just everything falls apart around you.
Mm-hmm.
Then you could have built it from there.
Which actually, apparently, in some endings, Anderson doesn't die.
Yes, you can save him if you're quick with the interrupt.
Yeah, which man, anytime there's a cinematic going on, I'm like, come on, click!
Oh, I just keep watching and take my hand away from the mouse, and I'm like, crap!
And there's some cinematics where like, man, there's got to be one coming off, so I'm just like clicking the Paragon button, just like, something's gonna happen, and I'm gonna jump on that shit immediately. Which I kind of actually appreciate that as a QuickTime event. Because, normal QuickTime events I dislike because it feels like you end, it's a game over thing. You saw it in Battlefield 3, like, oh shit, you fucked up this QuickTime event, go back to the cinematic, play through that whole thing again, and make sure you're prepared again. Which I didn't like, but in Mass Effect 3 and Mass Effect 2, I appreciate the fact that the QuickTime events are more or less bonuses. They aren't necessary. You kind of need them to get specific endings you want, but to play through the game and finish the game, they aren't necessary, and I appreciate that. Goka says, Anderson still dies, it just happens later. You get to chat with him for a couple minutes. Okay, yes, I guess that's one where you and Anderson are kind of like buddy-buddy. Like
war buddies, and then you're just kind of like, yeah.
Which I would have loved if they just kind of pulled out a cigarette,
Right. War is hell.
Yeah, I mean, I also kind of would have appreciated a Cowboy Bebop style ending.
Oh God, no! Too confusing. That's way too artistic. And maybe
step down the steps, just kind of look at a bunch of the husks and whatever else, be like, bang, collapse. I would have died, especially if Grunt did that, because Grunt is voiced by Stephen Bloom.
Well, they should have brought somebody back like Grunt.
And I would have loved if Grunt had done that. If that was the last word you heard from Grunt was just bang. Son of a... a lot of people on the comments are saying that the dream theory does make a lot of sense, which I think the person who came up with it did a decent job of tying everything together. Yeah. But at the same time, I do have to agree with you. I really don't
want that to be the ending. Why would you build a twist like that? We got one over on them. I don't think you want to end it that way.
Yeah, I don't know.
Mass Effect 4, it was all a dream, and you'll have people shooting their state of fucking control systems. Dude, I would bite my controller in half if that would happen.
Dude, M. Night Shyamalan style, man. Come on.
No. I think we've learned enough from his mistakes.
Oh, God. There was a beautiful, actually, G4 parody of that, actually. I remember where it'd be like, there's just some random white guy standing there in front of the camera, like, hi, I'm M. Night Shyamalan. M. Night Shyamalan jumps on the camera and goes, no, you're not. Twist.
What a twist.
Exactly. But, yeah, so, I don't know. I'm still not entirely convinced that the ending is as bad as a lot of people are making it out to be. Like, what other points did you have for,
Let's see. I had a lot of points. It was just... because there's so much... all the things that are left unanswered that they could have simply fixed by... again, just text over there. Mm-hmm. I wanted to know, what happens to the Quarians and do the peace continue? The Genophage, how the Krogans. Do the Krogans come back in full strength and take over the galaxy again? There's a lot that... maybe they're saving for Mass Effect 4.
Yeah, I was reading the Penny Arcade blog recently, and I think it was Gabe or Tycho, one of the two, who made a really good point, which was that good science fiction endings leave you with some great answers, but more than that, they will leave you with great questions, which is what I think Mass Effect 3 kind of did very well, where they leave you with, okay, mass relays are destroyed, you have all the races in the Sol system, which obviously can't sustain them, and they're all armed to the teeth.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to happen? You know, can they broker peace in some way, or is just everything going to go to hell? Is it just all going to be one epic war? And you know, the Stargazer ending, when you think about it in those terms, kind of adds on to that of, okay, maybe this is long centuries in the future, where, you know, there's a last remnant of humanity or something, or maybe there's a whole big civilization left, and there was peace brokered, but you only hear what I presume to be two humans, you know, a grandpa and his grandson talking.
Right. Which we don't see if they're human, we assume.
We assume, yes. And,
hopefully.
and
Maybe there's some machine combination.
The grandfather is voiced by Buzz Aldrin, which I thought was an amazing touch.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, and then, you know, the grandson goes, you know, tell me another story about the shepherd.
Mm-hmm.
You know, which I think it kind of adds on to that. Okay, you know, interesting question thing. What was that a part of then? You know, was it a peaceful universe in the future?
It's a good question, but I guess, but you can't leave that many questions unless you really just want to go into it in the next game.
Yeah.
So, like,
well, there is plenty of DLC coming, which I think almost like the Arrival DLC for Mass Effect 2. You know, whatever DLC comes out in the future, we could get some interesting answers from.
Right.
You know, because Arrival answered the question in Mass Effect 3, why the hell was Shepard grounded?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, they definitely need some DLC because there's a lot of things missing. They need to fix. They need to fix so many things, but I don't want to buy DLC for it. Mm-hmm. I wish because I noticed they did that with 13.2. Is they left the gamers with the WTF ending, they were like, oh, DLC's coming. Sorry guys, la la la. So it's a great business model for these guys, and yeah. I'm sure they're just like loving it right now. It's like now they're more invested in the game.
Oh god, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen.
They're definitely building great press with all this. So
it's almost operating under the idea of, you know, any press is a good press.
Absolutely.
Which, you know, I don't agree with. Obviously, there is such a thing as bad press. Just look at Ocean Marketing.
But this isn't it. This is just more fuel for the fire, and more people just want to know.
We all want to know, but you know, a lot of people are saying like they wouldn't agree with it if you like, a lot of people wouldn't buy that ending DLC on principle. They, you know, I think a lot of people actually just be like, let's wait for the suckers to buy it and then post the video online and the leak.
I personally, I don't know how you feel, but I don't want them to. I want them to be men of integrity when it comes to it and say, no, our writers wrote this story. This is how it ends. We're done. Like,
well,
I think it was a terrible ending, and I'm like okay with it.
Yeah, well,
I
mean, there's actually precedence for changing endings. With Fallout 3, they had
Fallout 3 has been mentioned numerous times.
Yeah, what's it called, the Broken Steel DLC, where a lot of people kind of pissed off with the way Mass Effect 3 ended. But with Broken Steel DLC, instead of you going in, you could send someone else in to do it, and you live. Everything comes out together. You don't suffer from radiation poisoning. You can go on and do whatever the hell else. But you know, I am gonna have to agree that if they do come out with a DLC, they're going to either have to set the price point incredibly low, like maybe $1 or $2, or just not charge for it at all. You know, I can understand them charging, you know, $1 or $2 for it because it is going to cost them significant amounts of money to recreate the DLC, especially if they want to have it fully voiced. They're going to have to bring back all the original team, possibly rehire some QA testers, or just keep the QA testers on. They're going to have to, bring back all the voice actors for everything.
Everybody.
Yeah, it's going to be incredibly, incredibly expensive.
Absolutely.
And absolutely no studio is above caving if, they reach an incredible amount of, just an incredible amount of unexpected expense. So we kind of see it with Obsidian Studios, where they had to drop a bunch of projects because they didn't get that 85 Metacritic score.
Yeah, well.
But, so I can understand a low price point to kind of recoup some of the losses that are going to incur from it. But again, I think myself and most of us would prefer, if it was to happen, we'd prefer it to be free.
Of course. I just hope they don't, and they just move on to Dragon Age 3, which I'm very excited for.
I believe they're kind of currently working on Dragon Age 3.
Yeah, they need to just let this go, move on to the next one, and get that right.
One thing I'm actually kind of excited for, though, is the Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition.
I saw you posted that.
Yes, and I believe I may, cross my fingers, nothing's confirmed yet, but later on this week I believe I may be having an interview with Cameron Topher, who was one of the original developers of Baldur's Gate and is working on this.
Heard it here.
Yeah, again, nothing confirmed. Everyone, nothing confirmed.
But stay
just kind
tuned.
of hoping. Yes. So, what other points did
Let's
you
see.
have?
I believe I addressed all the endings. I believe I addressed all those things. I know I was missing something because the fact that it's more continuity issues, and I just wish they developed it better, but especially with Mass Effect 2's ending of having Shepard die as an option, and then Mass Effect 3, no, you can't have that storyline. I didn't like that. Because that again, it ruins your universe.
Well, yeah, but I mean, who are you going to play as?
They introduced that new, was it James was his name? I didn't play him at all. The big stocky guy, just put him in there.
Oh God, really? Well, I mean,
I
I guess as his loyalty thing, he does join the M7.
Yeah, but then
program.
you switch it over, and it's no longer Shepard thing, and it's basically a galaxy thing. So you have this unmanned, unknown guy. You wouldn't feel invested. I guess there was no way for them to get rid of Shepard and say, nope, he's dead. So
I mean, yeah, I can really see the Shepard died ending of Mass Effect 2 to be a game over. That's what it was. It was a game over.
Okay, you got the Lazarus Project. Come on, revive them again.
Revive all the peoples.
Why not? You brought
that'd be way too cheesy,
right?
Yeah.
But it's a possibility.
Yeah,
I think they're just like. So it made me think that they developed Mass Effect 3 as its own little independent thing. Basically, it's its own little game because it doesn't have anything to do with the last ones. Like Mass Effect 1, Mass Effect 2 seems like a union, perfect harmony. But then Mass Effect 3 is just like, well, it's an ending to this game.
Well, Mass Effect 3, tied together very, very well into the choices you made in 1 and 2. You saw those come back.
You could still change your decisions, though. Like, if you had been, like, pro-Quarian the entire time, you could still turn around and be like, nope, Gaff, actually, I'm going to support
them.
Well,
that's why it was Mass Effect 2 versus Mass Effect 1, If you spent the entire time, you're like, oh, I'm going to promote harmony between the races, and then Mass Effect 2 comes around and be like, Cerberus all the way, let's just, like...
Which would be awesome.
Let's be pro-human, and then...
You switch right back to Alliance, and there's no harmonizing between them.
Well, there is.
I don't feel it.
I mean, the way I view it is the Mass Effect franchise. The games are individual acts to one long story. Mass Effect 1 obviously is Act 1. It's the setup. It's the introduction of the Reapers, of the Husks, and of what happens. Mass Effect 2 is the rising action. It's stakes are raised. We now have, colonies disappearing, and you realize that the Reapers are now
a real threat to the...
Yeah, they're actually on their way. Very, very soon they're going to come and kill us all. And then Mass Effect 3 is the climax and resolution.
Crap, they're here, yeah.
Yeah, which, kind of felt to me entirely like climax. It's just battle, bringing everything together. It's that final push for survival. And I think when you view it as one large 3-act structure, it all kind of starts to make a bit more sense with the creative decisions they made, as opposed to viewing it all as 3 separate 3-act structures.
Right, but depending on your playthrough, like I said, mine was, I was pro Cerberus, and then you didn't really have that option. So it kind of ruined my belief of that just one thing. So it's another thing. They could have basically put another option in there to basically just have a different type of playthrough and make it mine instead of what they wanted his story to be. So that will influence the ending, because obviously you could basically, join the Elusive Man in the end.
Mm-hmm.
So I just didn't feel like it was my playthrough. It was what the game wanted me to do, and that kind of ruined it. So a lot of the choices I made, also, like, where did Paragon or Renegade really truly play a part in the end? You basically had no choice at the end. When you get to the 3 choices, it didn't matter if you were 100% of either. You could choose any option. They even color-coded it very much like that. You had the red for your Renegade, where you blow everything up, and your blue for your Paragon, where you control things. Not a complete direct connection, but you could kind of see an influence there.
Well, that kind of plays again into the idea of the cosmicism, where it's bigger than any of the Paragon or Renegade choices he made.
Right.
The ending is beyond him.
But he's a Jesus character, and he shouldn't even have to make a decision. It's like, you have his morals kind of set, and you just I don't know. Jesus would never give him a decision. Jesus was just like, I'm doing this. This is what's right.
Yeah,
I know I'm drawing too much on the Catholicism, but there could have been more. So that was my basis for the entire thing, is that they rushed it. They could have added a lot more, and I know that for everything that we would have wanted it to be, would have been twice as expensive. A big problem was that all 6 endings were very similar in the animations.
Yeah.
And I had to look at it and be like, yes, I want individual things for how everything plays out, but I know that BioWare is going to come back like, do you know how much that would have cost to animate every different thing? And I would be like, yeah, you're right, I wouldn't want to pay an extra $6 million just to have...
Yeah, that's an interesting thing to keep in mind, where they had already kind of pushed the release date back once, I believe, and it costs a lot of money to keep pushing release dates back, because you got to figure down payments are set for promotional stunts and everything else. So they do kind of need to keep that in mind, and there's going to be a certain point in time where they have to say, fuck it, we'll deal with community backlash, but we need to get this out so we can get capital to either, run this again, bring everyone together and fix what we did, or move on. Just deal with that as something bad that happened, learn from it, make it a learning experience, and
deal with it.
Move on to the next project. Which, it is hard to disagree that the ending and a good portion of the game is rushed. Just looking at all the bugs we've seen, and yeah, I don't know, but at the same time, I don't think the endings were bad on their own. They're disappointing to many. They're not what we were expecting. They're not the AAA blockbuster endings, for certain, that many felt the game was based around. But I think that for a sci-fi universe, and for someone who read a lot of the old school sci-fi authors, Asimov and all of them, this ending left me with a very similar feeling to some of the good classic sci-fi literature I've read, where I'm just sitting there going, well, damn.
There could have been more. I gotta keep coming back to that. I can't get over it, but look, because again, it wouldn't have taken long to do some of these things, like I said, the text boxes, but I believe they flashed up all the characters you played with in Mass Effect 3. But I didn't see any other ones that I basically encountered throughout the game.
Well, they didn't even flash those up, I don't think.
Jack was missing. I don't think Thane Krios was there. There's certainly more, like Miranda I don't think was missing from the little flash of everyone's face.
So, I don't even remember seeing a flash of everyone's face.
No, they showed like Liara and Garrus and I think a couple of them.
Okay. Now,
So there was more that you could have basically just thrown it up there.
yeah, see, I see a lot of people who are complaining about closure. They didn't really... A lack of closure they felt in the game. But
Right.
in my mind, the closure I got was the goodbyes I gave on London. Right before, I go on that final mission where I'm at the base and I'm calling everyone up, being like,
Right.
hey, what's your status, and kind of giving my goodbyes, giving that speech at the end. I felt that was my closure.
Mm-hmm.
That was me saying, all right, I'm done. Things we probably aren't going to survive. This is another suicide mission times 10.
I guess I'm heavily influenced by the JRPG thing, where basically after the credits roll, you get the ending and you see whatever positive outcome comes from your gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
Final Fantasy VII, obviously, you see Red 13 go up and you see that Midgar is overwhelming with life again. And it's just, you get that as like, okay, everything turned out okay. There wasn't that. I mean, sure, you can say your goodbyes, but you still don't know what happened. Did they all die in there? I mean, something could have happened. Like I said, a text box would have done. I mean, Dragon Age Origins, at the end of that, just a text box comes up and says, Morgan ran away with your baby. And I'm like, okay, I know where she's at.
Yeah, she does that. She was...
Yeah, it doesn't take much to basically make a text box and just come up with, like, okay.
Yeah, that's true, but... I don't know, I kind of feel like that kind of takes away from that great questions thing of good sci-fi, though. Because I don't think we need... I don't think we always need a clean resolution in endings. I feel that, in a sense, what happens afterwards, the ideas that we come up with, where we believe the universe is, can be infinitely more impactful than anything BioWare comes up with themselves. Where do I think the Krogans are going to be now that the genophage is cured in my playthrough?
There's certainly a great deal of openness for fan fiction, and I hope somebody builds on that. I'm sure somebody's going to go build something. Somebody's got to, even if they build a new ending that they thought was right.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely a lot of openings. I hope somebody takes advantage of if Mass Effect.
There's going to be tons of fan fiction out there,
Absolutely.
dude. People are going to run for it.
Well, they always do. I mean, any good series basically has a lot of it.
Yeah, God, I've seen some awful fan fiction in my day. I read a Batman RoboCop one. I don't even know why. It was just like...
That sounds horrible in itself.
It was scary, dude. My friend linked it to me and be like, dude, look how fucking awful this is.
Oh my god, Batman, that's horrible. But
yeah.
I just hope they don't really ruin things. Like, they add on a DLC. Like, Final Fantasy X, have you played it?
Yes.
Have you played 10-2 as well?
I starkly refused.
Good. I think they ruined a great ending by putting in 10-2.
Well, yeah,
because they took what was basically a very melancholy ending and basically made the happy ending happen.
Yeah, I've complained about that before, where in the game like 10, where they sat down and were like, well, they weren't content with bittersweet. They felt that people weren't going to enjoy bittersweet enough, so they brought out J-pop. In a very literal sense, she was J-pop. She was in a J-pop group and singing. Which is, kind of where I'm afraid Mass Effect 3 too could end up. Shepard comes back and he's dressed like Michael Jackson.
Why not? Let's do it.
Exactly. And, I really...
I want to mod at that tomorrow.
Yes, everyone hop on that. I want to see Shepard singing Thriller. I believe that would be the most appropriate. Alright, Lost Northern is saying the situation that BioWare is having right now happened in 2011 too. It seemed that the game industry is having some problem. Lost Northern, would you care to explain a little bit more about that? And apparently the ending was also discussed on CNN.
What?
CNN reported on
the backlash or just the ending?
On the backlash.
Okay, yeah, it's become like a fluff piece. They're like, what do we report on? Well, people don't like a video game. let's run it.
Yeah, like, oh, why not?
It's a humanity piece.
Mhm.
It's nice to be like, oh, look at all these, because they've done a lot. Didn't they raise like thousands of dollars of like rewrite it?
God, I think last I checked it was at like what 60,000.
Yeah.
People in chat, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I know at one point it was at 30,000.
It was going to. They were going to
Early
donate
on.
it to Child's Play.
Yeah,
to get
which it's automatically sent to Child's Play. They're
They
using
already okay.
they're using what's known as the chip-in widget. I use it for my charity event as well,
Mhm.
and it goes straight to wherever.
Wherever.
it
Don't
goes
say wherever. It goes to a good charity.
it goes straight to the Child's Play PayPal account.
I donated $100, so I hope it didn't go wherever.
It's where. Let's just say I've been having fun with my PayPal account lately.
Oh yeah, let's see. I got that. I missed that part. Yeah.
What part?
Yeah. You keep talking about like the questions about like they destroyed the mass relays. That's the point. Like now you've got nothing. Your science fiction of this great universe has been reduced to like a planet.
To a solar system.
A solar-
A
yeah.
solar system.
Maybe. I mean, they were all around Earth. You got Earth or the jungle planet. Really, you think like all technology's kind of been wiped
Well-
out. There goes your science fiction.
No, not all technology has not been wiped out. That's
Okay.
completely-
Depending on your ending, it has been.
well,
I had everything destroyed.
Synthetic life may be wiped out, but
I killed
the
some
ships
things.
themselves and the technology on the planets may not entirely be wiped out. Perhaps they can also repurpose the Reapers. Also, when you think about it, the individual home planets may not entirely. They'll probably still have people on there in the process of rebuilding.
Yeah. You're gonna have to go back and basically reestablish a connection somehow.
Surface says all tech was destroyed. Is that how it happened? All technology itself was destroyed?
Depends on your ending, I believe.
Well, I mean, if you go for say
'Cause
the
I just-
destroy ending, I thought it was like
kill everything.
I thought the destroy ending was just the Reapers died.
'Cause there were it was basically Earth could be destroyed, devastated, saved, galaxy saved somehow, vaporized was another one, and then there was like a Shepherd Lives thing. So I'm not sure about how all tech got destroyed.
Yeah. Also, a bunch of people have been pointing out the fact that in the Arrival DLC for Mass Effect 2, you end up destroying a mass relay in that. Except when you destroy that mass relay, it causes the entire system to be destroyed, Batarian planet wiped out, and all that mass.
Oh
deaths.
right.
And they're kind of like, well, what the fuck? You destroy all the relays in this game.
Yeah, and that should basically cause probably some black hole issues. I don't know. I'm no
Well,
scientist.
no,
Everything should be destroyed is what I think they're getting at.
that's what they're getting at. But at the same time, perhaps that's what the Crucible changes. It changes that energy that comes out from the mass relays to have whatever effect was intended.
Sure.
So this comes down to that one famous quote where in science fiction, any technology that's sufficiently advanced enough can therefore be considered magic. Which is kind of what I think the Crucible is at this point. It's that magic button. Where, perhaps it just changed everything and it doesn't
Wizard.
destroy the entire solar system like it did when you just destroyed
Right,
it the way
of course.
you did.
Right, it was actually designed before they had this all in mind, so that one day, everything. No, I can't even piece it together. A wizard did it.
Exactly, a wizard did it. Or nanobots in science fiction. It's always been nanobots.
Yes, it's nanobots.
Yes.
I hate nanobots. It's always nanobots
Fucking nanobots.
everywhere.
Or Gandalf. So, yeah, I mean, also it comes down to the genocide on the moon of Yavin 4 in Star Wars, where when you think about it, you really try not to focus on all the innocent people Luke killed when he destroyed any of the Death Stars.
Who cares?
Yeah, it's
They
one of those things
deserved
that you just kind of got to be like, alright, we'll set that to the side and let's not think too much about it, otherwise all science fiction kind of essentially just collapses in on itself. It's one of those things that, in order to be a consumer of it, you have to sort of choose to turn a blind eye to and pretend something else happened.
Did I miss anything? Did I miss anything? I know I had so many points. It was just, as I kept thinking about having prepared for this, my mind was reeling with, how to prove that this was a terrible ending. Anybody else got anything out there? I know I missed points.
Here, check the comments. I'm gonna grab a drink real fast.
Okay. Please, people, write in, tell me something, because I can only do so much.
And we got Commander Sheepdog still chilling here.
Good dog.
Yes, such I go, Puffy. Lots Northern, please post an ongoing response. I definitely love to sit here and read through all the comments and kind of respond to them. So yeah, please keep posting. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I definitely think Mass Effect 2 kind of had the stronger ending.
Oh, definitely.
It had the more interesting
absolutely.
choice. It had.
You felt everything. You really felt like you were on a suicide mission. It was intense all the way.
And kind of that
every character had a role. Every character was important, and I remember my first playthrough. Miranda was underneath the brick. I'm like, oh my god, is she dead? Is she dead? Is she dead? Is she dead? I felt for her.
Oh god, I was so... In my original playthrough of Mass Effect 2, Mordin died, and I was heartbroken.
No!
I know.
You sent him through the vents? You bastard.
No, I didn't send him through the vents. I think I sent him back with the crew.
Oh, really?
And he died, yeah.
He died anyway? I thought that was supposed to be...
No, that didn't save him.
Huh.
I don't know. I must have fucked up or something.
Yeah.
Maybe on his loyalty mission I fucked up.
Yeah, I screwed up, and luckily I didn't save properly, so when I had to reboot my save for Mass Effect 3, Mass Effect 2 was still before I went through everything, so I was able to save a couple people that I really wanted. Mostly Jack.
Jack was awesome. I loved her in 3.
I wish they all had a bigger role. I wish everyone had a bigger role in that.
I do, but I can see why they didn't.
It would be too much.
It would just, if they wanted to introduce Edie and James and the Prothean.
Did anybody use James?
I mean, I didn't. I'm gonna be honest.
As soon as you had Garrus, it's just I only need one guy to really blow the crap out of things.
Yeah, I think my standard party was pretty much Garrus and Tali.
Yeah.
I never used Edie except for that one time where they forced me to.
Yeah, right.
But
I liked the way a lot of the game played out.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta say that the gameplay was great, and a lot of it was done really well. The genophage curing, the Quarians helping them out, getting them back to their homeland. Great, I loved it. But then there's the ending. So they wrapped up a couple of those loose ends really well.
Yeah, which let me tell you, for me, when Mordin died when curing the genophage, I have no problem admitting this. Manly tears.
Tears.
Very manly tears were streaming down my face. When he was singing Scientist Solarian and didn't even finish it before the building blew up. I was like, damn it! No. He was the coolest guy ever, especially since I spoke to Patrick Weeks, who was the writer for Mordin in 2 and I believe 3. And he even sang Scientist Solarian during the marathon for me. So it's just oh man, one of my favorite characters just died. That was rough.
I like that. They wrapped them up, then unwrapped them with the ending. Which might play into they want more questions than answers. But,
Wait, who did they unwrap at the ending?
They unwrapped all the endings that they already kind of fixed up. So the Quarians and Geths are okay, they've got peace, but is that going to last?
Yeah,
Or the Krogans going to come back and basically, they thought, okay, Krogans will be cured, but then they'll come right back and basically be their regressive self.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, I would like to see. I love Penny Arcade's take on the whole thing.
Ice cream.
Reapers become ice cream. You're a supreme leader, and the Krogans made you a cake. You don't blow out the candles; you headbutt them back into the cake.
Yes, I would enjoy that actually. Which I believe is now the only acceptable ending for BioWare to provide us.
I'll buy that.
$2,
basically.
I would pay good money for it.
Made you a cake.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
What would a Krogan cake have in it? I don't even want to know. Probably things that you can't ingest.
Yeah, you'd pass out after 3 bites. Wake up behind the bar. Yeah.
They feed the cake to the Reapers, and that's how the game ends. There you go.
Yes.
They finish it like an ID4.
Mhm.
They finish like Independence Day. It's a virus loaded up into the Reapers. See, I'm bet they could have done that, and that would have been horrible just as well. Like I said,
mean, it would have been horrible. I almost feel like there wouldn't have been as much of a backlash for that, though, because everyone would be like, "Oh, hey, Independence Day!
Independence
I like
Day.
that movie."
Will Smith.
Yeah, The Fresh Prince.
Would have been terrible. They couldn't have done, I don't know. They couldn't have done anything else.
Yeah, Schnell right now is saying, what's sad is the indoctrination theory is the only thing that makes me feel better. Which, I guess is true. I think a lot of people are kind of clinging onto that as last-minute hope right now. Like,
I know, they want that to make them feel better, but, guys, you're just going to have to face it that they didn't think that through. They didn't.
yeah, and, there's a lot of people kind of saying, this is our game right now, it's our choices, which I think that all choice in all the games is really just an illusion in the end. It's a cleverly disguised illusion. We never really had much choice to begin with. It's everything that could possibly happen is pre-scripted.
Yes, well, Neo said it best. Choice. The problem is choice.
Exactly. And everything in a way is just a choose your own adventure book. That's what it all boils down to in the end. Just because, even starting at Mass Effect 1, yeah, you all right. Do you let this person live or die? If live, go to this cutscene.
Right.
If die, go to this cutscene. And it really, I don't know.
That is the problem, though. They're playing in a medium that doesn't allow for that thing. Like, choose your own adventures are the same way, where basically you have a fixed ending. It's not like a great Dungeons and Dragons tabletop, where basically if the DM sees the players make this decision, he can adapt the world and make it what he wants to do. Mm-hmm. So you can only do so much, and it's going to be a problem. Like, yeah, I want it to be my Shepard, but they don't know what my Shepard is. They don't know what I'm thinking. They're just going to make their game and give me as much as they can.
And, I mean, I think that people would even be complaining about a text ending, just because I think at this point we kind of almost expect a full cinematic. We want to see, actually see, not read what happened.
Right, but again, money, and you gotta settle for something. You can't. I mean, a full cinematic would have taken a whole, because they would have complained that they didn't see a cinematic about something else. There's always something to complain about, so I would have been fine with the text box. The graphics are way too advanced these days. It takes like a month to put together like a 5-second clip.
Something like that. But now here's my question: would you have preferred to not see multiplayer if you could have gotten a better ending?
I'm not a fan of multiplayer, but
I don't know. I personally believe that the multiplayer. I actually really enjoy the multiplayer. I have had a lot of fun with it. I prefer it on the PC as opposed to the 360, just because that's how I am with my shooters. I love my keyboard and mouse. You will take that from my cold, dead hands. But I don't know. I personally kind of torn when it comes. Excuse me.
Bless.
Thank you. I'm kind of torn when it comes to that, though, just because.
Well, a lot of games are going the multiplayer route, and I feel like that's because they know people want that, so they feel the need to develop it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And I mean, multiplayer is something that they've been toying with since 1.
Really, I didn't.
It's something that they've been kind of tossing around in their studios. They kind of the first big multiplayer thing that BioWare has really tried to pump out. I don't really think that BioWare, whatever. I don't really think that BioWare proper, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I don't think BioWare proper have really released a proper game that had a strong multiplayer element to it. Before the Old Republic, I believe. I don't even, because KOTOR didn't have multiplayer. Baldur's Gate, Neverwinter Nights, Dragon Age, and Mass Effect, going up until this most recent game. And I don't think any of those had a strong multiplayer to them. And, I think to a degree you can almost kind of see in some of the game, perhaps they could have used they could have made better use of their resources, of their people, if they had more people focusing on fixing the bugs on the gameplay and on the story even. But then again,
but did they think they had a good story already? I think they did. So I mean, they don't seem to be apologizing. They seem to be sticking with it. So I think I bet they thought they had a good ending. They were like, okay, we're done with this. We got this wrapped up. Let's add this. It wasn't like, I don't think they legitimately thought like, well, this is good enough.
Mm-hmm.
I think I want to believe that they truly were just like, we have a good ending, and we're gonna go on and keep developing. I don't want them to be a bad guy. I was just like, no, let's screw it. We'll go with what we got. I like to have faith in humanity.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I almost kind of think I think I would have enjoyed seeing no multiplayer, but more use of what the war assets were in single player, and like more kind of that centric of a gameplay, where you get to the end and you get to kind of move the armies around, tell people where to go, sort of thing.
Right. That would have played into a good, real commander Shepard, and made him focused on him.
And I think I would have enjoyed that as opposed to the multiplayer. But then again, I do enjoy the multiplayer, to be honest. I've been having a lot of fun with it. I joined in on this weekend's special event they had where, if the community itself across 360 and PC kills 1 million brutes, we all get something cool. And you also get something cool if you, I think, beat Silver with the Reapers, against the Reapers. Which is cool. I actually kind of think that's a pretty decent promotion in the end.
Yeah, that's nice.
And the multiplayer is fun. I kind of like the idea of it, where you're a squad, you're fighting on strategic points on different planets in order to, make a move against Cerberus and against the Reapers, and
But I wanted to help Cerberus.
Fuck Cerberus.
That's just my point.
Well, I think the reason why you can't be pro Cerberus in this game is because Cerberus ends up being pro Reaper.
They're not pro Reaper, they're pro humanity, using the Reaper.
Trying to be, but he's been indoctrinated.
Yeah, okay, fine. But it's Martin Sheen. I can't go against Martin Sheen.
Of course you can.
No. Shh. He's the elusive man. He's doing something right.
His name is Tim.
There's some who call him Tim.
Now, what did you think of the fact that the God thing at the end was the child?
I don't know what to make of that, because, okay, fine, they just kind of threw that in. And then the dream sequences, I still don't get that. Someone explain that to me. Why Shepard all of a sudden was having these crazy dreams. Yeah, sure, he saw a child get killed, but he's seeing how many other people get killed, and now this is going on. And that was the AI. Because, that starts to play into, a contact thing, where that shows the form you'd be most comfortable with. I know, it's, ugh. I don't get that. How could it be that? I just don't get it. They thought it would be cool. Ooh, connections, ooh.
I think it was kind of a forced emotional ploy. It is a plea towards empathy, which I think is... It kind of rang false. It wasn't necessarily entirely sincere. But at the end, where you see the Crucible is the little boy, I think that was interesting. It sort of makes sense for the Crucible to take on the form of something that's been torturing Shepard, that he feels incredibly guilty about. And, they can obviously tell that because through the indoctrination process, it obviously has some amount of telekinesis or something to be able to read minds. So, it makes sense that they would have that.
but it didn't have that effect on me when I played through. I'm just like, okay,
Yeah.
it's an AI and the little boy.
Yeah, no, I felt nothing towards that little boy. I was like, oh, you little shit, you ran away.
You're just a construct, another one that I basically run into.
Yeah.
There's nothing there. The dream sequences were just, I don't know, that was just trying to confuse us. There's probably something there. They're like, oh, this is what it meant. I'm like, oh, okay, that was terrible. Do it again.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, all right. Do you have any more points you want to make? I think we're starting to wind down.
I think I'm okay with all the points I've made.
Yeah. Does anyone in the chat have anything you guys want to talk about? I think that we're at like a 5-6 second delay right now, so it's gonna take.
Let it go for a sec.
Yeah. Yeah. So someone's mentioning that about the From Ashes DLC. I added a huge plot turn that could have been involved in the plot a lot more than, oh hey look, he's a Prothean. But I think they've made the right move, because otherwise people have been like, oh my god, Day 1 DLC, even worse.
Which whatever. Don't buy it. Done.
Yeah.
They'll learn very quickly if you don't buy it.
Mm-hmm.
That was another outrage that I don't even want to get into. They just, I don't know. People basically have come to expect things, and I think that's what a lot of the problem was with this backlash, is that we expected something, and thus we didn't get what we wanted, so we're gonna be angry. When really, I don't think you have you can be angry, sure, and they're always gonna be angry, but
yeah,
don't be, I guess. Roll with it.
Nikani wants to know what we thought about Joker's sister, and what happened with that. Now, let me fill you in a little bit.
Joker's sister was it's been a week since I played.
You never saw Joker's sister. But what happened was, you're talking with Joker at one point, he's like, oh yeah, I'm kind of nervous, like, my family is out on this farm in this distant planet region thing, mabobber, and I'm kind of nervous about them, but I hope that, Reapers kind of attack their labs, kind of learn a little bit more about that.
Mm-hmm.
Later on in the hospital, you see this PTSD Asari, and you can kind of overhear her just talking about how she was on this colony or something, and hanging out with his family, and they were getting attacked, and something other happened. This one girl on the farm had a brother in the military, and she had to kill all of them in order to save herself. Or at least that's what the Asari had to do.
Wow.
She's kind of suffering from PTSD and essentially begging for a gun in the hospital so she can kill herself. Later on, you can go to your Spectre terminal and authorize her that gun if you want.
Ah, okay.
Which, correct me if I'm wrong, Nikani, I believe that's actually what happened. But yeah, like, what do you... Yeah, that is kind of dark.
Yeah, but that's war.
Yeah, so... I don't know. I never saw that. I didn't really pick up on it. So it's hard for me to kind of form an opinion on it. I think it would be a really kind of cool little side thing from there, though. Like, I feel like that's just one of those cool stories that can be built up in the game that, whether in a comic or another tie-in novel or something, I think that would be interesting. Or even, Surface mentions they make a Joker loyalty mission to help him find a sister as DLC. That'd be DLC. I'd find interesting. Like, insert that in there, like, oh, let's go find Joker's sister.
Right.
See what happened there. I think that would be interesting. Oh, and apparently, if you authorize the gun, it lowers your war assets. So, yeah, that's interesting.
Huh. Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of counterproductive to let somebody kill themselves. You need everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just...
But I thought that was actually one of those things that really made fantastic ambiance in the game and a really fantastic aesthetic. So, I mean, that was one of the things that really BioWare did really well with this game, which they did plenty of things very, very well.
Absolutely.
The ending, of course, is questionable. I'm going to stand by my thought that it's not as bad as everyone's making it out to be. I really don't believe it is.
But it is.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, on that note, I think we've been talking for about an hour and a half now, and I believe it's time for us to start wrapping this up.
Sure.
So, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in and talking about this. I look forward to kind of doing this more in the future. I'm hoping to get interviews on here, more interesting debates like this, where I sit down with someone and talk about the issues in the gaming community, controversies as they rise and all that. Just kind of have good, logical, interesting back and forth discussion as opposed to the loud, angry talking heads we see on the internet. So, again, thank you everyone for tuning in. I'm Stephen Crane from The Armed Gamer. This is
Reed Brownsmith.
Yep.
Guest
And
editor. No.
Yes.
Guest.
Just guest. Yes. And thanks again for watching, everyone.